A big sister went to see her little sister who lived in the countryside. The big sister's husband was a shopkeeper in the city, while the little sister's husband was a farmer in a small village. As they sat and talked over tea, the big sister started bragging about living in the city, talking about their nice house, fancy clothes, and fun trips to places like the theater. The little sister felt a bit upset and started saying that living in the village as a farmer was better. She said, "I wouldn't want to swap lives with you. We live simply, but we don't have to worry too much. You have nice things, but you could lose them any time. We might not get rich, but we'll always have enough food." The big sister laughed and made fun of her, saying that living with pigs and cows was not a good life. The little sister didn't mind and said that even though their life was tough, it was honest, and they didn't have to please anyone. Meanwhile, Pahom, the husband, was listening and thought to himself, "If only I had more land, I'd have everything I need and wouldn't be afraid of anything, not even the devil." After their chat, the sisters went to bed. But the devil, who had been hiding and listening, was happy to hear Pahom's words and decided to trick him. Near the village, there was a lady who owned a big piece of land. She was nice to the villagers until she hired a strict manager who started fining everyone for little things. Pahom was careful, but he still had to pay fines when his animals went onto her land. He was angry and took it out on his family. When he heard that the lady was selling her land, and a man from a nearby and wanted to buy it, he and the other villagers were worried. They thought the innkeeper would be even stricter. So, they asked the lady to sell the land to them instead, and she agreed. They tried to buy it all together, but they couldn't agree on how to do it. In the end, they decided to buy pieces of the land individually. Pahom was jealous when he heard that his neighbor was buying a big piece of land. He decided he needed to buy some too, as life was getting too hard with the manager's fines. He and his wife figured out a way to get enough money, and Pahom bought a piece of land from the lady. He was very happy to have his own land, and worked hard on it. He paid off his debts and felt proud of his land, which seemed special and different to him now that it was his. Pahom was happy with his land, but he had problems with his neighbor's animals coming onto his fields. He asked them nicely to stop, but it kept happening. He decided to take them to court, and some of the neighbors had to pay fines. This made them angry, and they started causing more trouble for Pahom. One night, someone even cut down some of his trees. Pahom was furious and decided to take them to court again. But this time, he couldn't prove who did it, and he got even angrier. He argued with the judges and his neighbors, and things got worse in the village. Then a traveling merchant stopped by Pahom's house. The two chatted over a cup of tea. The merchant told him that he had purchased a large tract of land from the Bashkirs. He also told them that he had bought 500 soccer fields for only 1,000 rubles. So Pahom asked around. The merchant told Pahom that he sent gifts to the land and that he drank with them and was in a good mood. When he finished listening to the merchant, he thought to himself, "If only I could go there, I could see how much land I could have." Pahom asked how to get to this place and decided to go check it out himself. He left his wife to take care of their home and went with one of his workers. They bought gifts to give to the people there, just like the dealer had said. After traveling a long way, they reached the land of the Bashkirs. Everything was just like the dealer had said. The Bashkirs lived in tents, didn't farm, and had lots of animals. They were happy and didn't work much. They were friendly but didn't speak Russian. When Pahom arrived, they welcomed him. They gave him a place to sit, tea to drink, and food to eat. Pahom gave them gifts and they were really happy. They told him through an interpreter that they would give him as much land as he wanted. Pahom was excited and said he wanted land. They were ready to give it to him, but they started arguing about whether they should wait for their chief to come back. While they were arguing, the chief arrived. He was happy to give Pahom land and said Pahom could have as much as he could walk around in one day for 1,000 rubles. Pahom was surprised but happy. He wanted to make sure everything was official, so he asked for a deed. They agreed to make a deed and go to town to get it sealed. Pahom was excited and thought he could get a lot of land for a good price. Pahom was surprised at how much land he could get, but the chief explained that he had to be back at the starting point by sunset or he would lose his money. Pahom agreed to the deal, excited about the land he could get. They decided to start early the next morning. They spent the rest of the evening talking, eating, and drinking. When night came, they gave Pahom a bed to sleep on, and everyone went to sleep, ready for the next day. Pahom lay on the feather bed, but sleep eluded him. His mind was consumed with thoughts of the land. I'll mark off a vast area, he contemplated. In a day, I can cover 35 miles. The days are long now, and a 35-mile circuit will encompass a substantial amount of land. I'll sell or lease the less fertile parts and choose the best for farming. I'll buy 2 more pairs of oxen and hire additional laborers. About 150 acres will be for plowing, and the rest for grazing cattle. Pahom was restless all night, and just before dawn, he dozed off and had a dream. He dreamt he was in the tent, hearing laughter outside. He went out to investigate and saw the Bashkir chief, the dealer, and the peasant from the Volga, but they all transformed into the devil, laughing beside a dead man, Pahom himself. He woke up in horror. Realizing dawn was breaking, he decided it was time to start the journey. The Bashkirs were ready, and they all set out, some on horseback, some in carts. Pahom, with his servant and a spade, drove in his own small cart. They reached the steppe just as dawn was breaking. They gathered on a hillock, and the chief pointed out the vast land, telling Pahom he could have any part of it. Pahom was thrilled at the sight of the fertile land. The chief placed his fox fur cap on the ground, marking the starting point for Pahom's journey. Pahom placed his money on the cap, prepared himself, and waited for the sun to rise. As soon as it did, he began his journey, walking at a steady pace. He marked his path with holes and turf, and as the day grew warmer, he quickened his pace. He took breaks to eat, drink, and rest, but he was determined to cover as much ground as possible. So Pahom continued to walk, forcing himself to overcome his fatigue, but the heat was getting hotter, and besides, he was even getting sleepy. Still, he reminded himself, 1 hour of perseverance is a lifetime especially, and kept walking. He wondered how long he had walked. When he looked at the sun, it was already past noon, and it was almost evening. Realizing that he had walked too long, he decided to go straight back to the hillock. Pahom walked towards the hillock, struggling with exhaustion, heat, and sore feet. He realized he might have been too ambitious and worried about not returning before sunset. The sun was setting, and he was still far from the hillock. In desperation, he began to run, discarding his belongings to lighten his load. He was terrified of dying from exhaustion but couldn't bring himself to stop. The Bashkirs were cheering him on, and he pushed himself to the limit. As he reached the hillock, the sun set, but it was still light on the hill. He saw the chief laughing, remembered his dream, and with the last of his strength, reached the cap. "Oh, what a fine man!" the chief exclaimed. He got a lot of land. Pahom's servant came running to help him up, but was surprised to see blood running from his mouth. Pahom was dead. The Bashkirs clucked their tongues and showed pity. His servant took a shovel and made a grave for Pahom, just long enough to fit him from head to heel. They buried him there.
Subscribe to our channel.